Hello, everyone. This is Janet Garcia from Inspiring Radiance. I am the CEO and founder, and at Inspiring Radiance, we teach women to love themselves unconditionally. And so I'm going to get everybody a few minutes to kind of get on the live. And so I just want to share, first and foremost, what an honor it is to be able to hold this sacred space for this discussion of, healing the mother wound. In the meantime, while people get on, I want to share a little bit about myself and kind of why it is that I do what I do. So I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am an EMDR certified therapist, and EMDR basically stands for a modality that is one of the most effective modalities in treating trauma and really resolving trauma. I am also a qualified clinical social worker supervisor, meaning that I can supervise, therapists who are currently undergoing their licensure in the state of Florida. And I specialize in trauma. And so one of the reasons that I specialize in trauma is because, of my own experiences, growing up in my adolescence, I struggled with my self-worth, my self-esteem. And so I, know what it is to go through some difficult moments in your life. And I know what it is to truly heal those things. And so to be able to go from, a place of, feeling broken and, struggling with my self-worth, my self-esteem, and to be able to go to a place where, I completely love and accept myself as I am in this moment, that created something that, I truly want to help others do in their own lives. And so I'm super, super passionate about helping women create the life that they truly want, the life that they truly deserve, and being able to love themselves and love every aspect of their lives. And so that's kind of one of the things that I really completely enjoy doing. So we are going to be talking about a couple of different topics. We are going to be talking about what the mother wound is all about. We are going to be talking about how to identify if you have a mother wound, and we are going to be talking about how to heal the mother wound. And so again, I just want to share what an honor it is to be able to hold this sacred space for each and every one of you. And I guess we can go ahead and, I'm giving everybody a few more minutes to kind of get on the live. And so I want to make it very clear that this is an interactive discussion. And so please feel free to post your questions if there's anything that you would like a little further clarification on so that I can discuss that. Please feel free to do that as well. I also want to offer a disclaimer. We will be talking about something that is, could be triggering for some. If you've had some difficulties with in your relationship with your own mother, it could be potentially triggering for you. So just keep that in mind. I want to make sure that you do have a support system in place, that maybe after this recording you have someone that you can call if you feel that you are being triggered, or it may be that maybe you're not quite ready to kind of go through this just yet, and maybe you need a little bit more of a one-on-one setting, and that is definitely something that I can help you with as well. So I am going to probably go ahead and dive in. I'm going to be doing a free association. So we're going to start with asking you to have paper and pen handy so that you can truly just kind of jot down the first thoughts that come to mind when I ask certain questions. I don't want you to overthink this. I don't want you to overanalyze it. I don't want you to, to intellectualize it. I want you to really get connected with your heart, connect with, the true feelings that are coming up for you, and, jot down whatever comes up first for you. So when you think about, your relationship with your mother, what was that relationship like? And so I want to clarify that mother could indicate, your mother. It could be somebody that played the mother figure for you if you didn't have a mother growing up, whether it be a grandparent, whether it be your father that had to play the mother and father role, whether it be, an adoptive mother. It doesn't have to be just biological mother. It could be anybody that you consider that mother figure for yourself. And so when you think about that relationship, what was that relationship like? I'm going to give everybody a few seconds to kind of just really, I'm going to give everybody a few seconds to really focus on, you know, writing down whatever thoughts come to mind. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. How did you feel in relationship? How did you feel in this relationship when you were a little girl? And again, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to just jot down. Do your thoughts drift back to happy memories, or do they dwell on the negative memories? And if a particular memory comes up for you, just jot it down. You know, just be mindful of it. How do you feel now about your relationship with your mother? You know, and I want to be very clear that this is not about blaming our mothers. This is not about, you know, shaming anybody or anything like that. This is about, you know, really identifying our true experience with our mothers so that we can really acknowledge that the pain that maybe was connected to the mother relationship so that we can heal. And the healing is for us. You know, it's not necessarily healing the relationship, although inadvertently it can heal the relationship, but it's about healing the mother wound so we can heal ourselves. Okay, so I want you to kind of hold on to that information and just keep it in the back of your head. Just be mindful of it as we are going through this. So our mother figures, you know, play the most crucial role in our development as children. You know, they're the very foundation of our emotional and our psychological growth. Our mother's influence is so intense, it's so intensely ingrained in, you know, our perceptions and how we see ourselves, how we see others. And I want to get into, you know, this concept that we all have of an ideal mother. You know, we have the concept of, you know, this kind and loving, nurturing mother who's always there when you need her to be there. The reality is that most women do not experience their mother figure this way. And when we think about that, you know, of course, mothers do their best. They try to provide the nurturance. But the reality is that most mother-daughter relationships are also, there's also a mix of shame and guilt, a sense of obligation, which of course leads us to carry on baggage, the baggage of resentment, you know, unresolved grief, disappointment toward our mothers. We carry that into our adult lives. This causes a very deep core wound of unworthiness, which is a wound that is passed down from generation to generation of women. You know, we're going to get into more details of kind of how the mother wound developed and where it came from and things like that. But, you know, by now you may be identifying if you have a mother wound, you know. And so I want to share a little bit about my experience kind of with my own mother wound and how I was able, I'm going to be talking about how I was able to truly heal that wound for myself. And so my relationship with my mother was very volatile. You know, I felt like I could never do anything right, mainly because my mother didn't know how to provide the emotional support that I needed, and I became resentful that she wasn't the mother that I needed her to be. You know, it wasn't until, you know, that, of course, along with a couple of other things, you know, caused me to struggle with my self-worth, my self-esteem. And at the age of 15, I became pregnant. And it wasn't until I had my son that I saw a shift. I began to see a shift in our relationship. I saw her, after my son was born, I saw her being this playing that nurturing role. She was nurturing to my son. And it opened up two things for me. You know, I was, of course, being able to see her in a very different viewpoint, being that nurturing, you know, mother that, of course, I needed her to be. But then I also, that caused me to feel even more resentful because, you know, why couldn't she have been that type of mother to me in a sense? And so, you know, it wasn't until a few years later that I began to truly see her as a woman, began to see her as someone who, of course, had her own struggles. And so I was able to shift that resentment, to be able to shift and heal all of those things, to be able to, you know, be more accepting of her. And I truly had to learn to forgive her for not being the mother that I needed her to be. And I'm going to go on into more details about that in a little later in the live video. And so again, you know, the mother wound is so critical. We have to heal the mother wound. If we do not heal our own mother wounds, it'll unintentionally be passed down to the next generation. We will continue to pass that down, you know, to our children. Our children will continue to pass that mother wound down to their children. And I don't know about you, but I don't want the mother wound to continue to be passed down from generation to generation. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to specifically identify if you suffer from a mother wound. So again, grab your notebooks, and I would just recommend that you just do a yes and no. Go through the different things, do a yes and no, and see if this is something that you are struggling with. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the questions and just answer as honestly as possible for yourself. So first thing, you self-sabotage when you are experiencing success or happiness. You struggle saying no and having healthy boundaries. You struggle with your self-worth, and you may feel like you are defective, like something's wrong with you. You experience codependency in relationships. You constantly compare yourself to other women or females. You blame yourself a lot for the things that are going wrong in your life. You don't allow your true self to shine through. So many times you minimize yourself, you play small just to fit in with what you think everybody else wants you to do. You sacrifice your dreams and your true heart's desires for other people, such as when you're in a relationship. Sometimes, even as an adult, you continue to seek your mother's approval in life. And it may not be directly, but it may be on a subconscious level, you know, kind of always seeking that approval from someone else. It's, you know, maybe that approval that you're seeking from your mother. And so if you answered yes to at least 3 or more, you know, the chances of you having a mother wound are pretty significant. And I can say, you know, in the past, if I answered these questions correctly, I could be a yes, 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 yes to a lot of them. And so it's about being able to truly acknowledge where you are. And if you know me, you know, one of the biggest things that I always say is you cannot release what you do not acknowledge. So just be really, you know, mindful of that. You know, you can just be really honest with yourself. So we're going to go back to a little bit to the mother wounds. Mother wounds developed in kind of your early childhood, you know, at a very young age. Usually a child develops the belief that I can make my mother happy if I'm a good girl or a boy. And your children develop this sense of that they are responsible for their mother's happiness, which is clearly not the case. Most mothers, of course, are responsible for their own happiness. But as children, we feel responsible, which then can be continued on a subconscious level. You know, I really was curious on kind of where the mother wound began, and I began to do research, and, you know, I honestly truly believe that it existed from the beginning of time. You know, when we think back, you know, centuries, and we think back about, you know, religion, and we think back about our patriarchal societies, you know, the reality is that women were expected, you know, to be the stay-at-home, you know, the women were expected to stay at home. They were expected to be the childbearers. Well, they are the childbearers, excuse me. They were the primary caretakers of the children. They, you know, had to give up their own ambitions to stay at home. They had to put everyone else's needs before their own needs. They had to truly, you know, hold the whole family together, basically, and hold themselves together all the time. They were, you know, responsible for completing all the household tasks and were responsible to serve their husbands. And so when we think about that, all of the expectations that were placed on women, you know, women had to give up their dreams, they had to give up their desires, they had to place themselves last. And so, you know, of course that left women, I can imagine that left women feeling resentful, that left women feeling, you know, angry, depressed, suffocated. And this, in a sense, is what developed the mother wounds. Mothers could not be, excuse me, mothers could not be their most authentic self. Thereby, they were mothering from a place of depletion. They weren't able to truly nurture their children because they were depleted themselves. They, you know, didn't have it all in them, basically, to be able to be the mothers that they needed to be. And so, you know, we think about that and really identify that, you know, if you're a mother, you're coming from a place of depletion, you're not going to be able to, of course, be the best version of yourself. You know, and many times women, when they were feeling resentful and things like that, all of those actions actually got taken out on the children unintentionally, not saying intentionally, but unintentionally, you know, in the form of emotional abandonment, manipulation, such as that, you know, where that's where that kind of the shame, that guilt, that sense of responsibility came in for the children. And so, sadly, this is something that still exists today. You know, we continue to be that primary caretaker of children. We continue to be primarily responsible for all of the household tasks. And I don't know if you know about me or you know about my business, but you know that one of the biggest things that I teach women is about self-care, about making yourself a priority. And the reality is that, you know, this is a foundation. You have to hear me when I say you have to make yourself a priority. You know, as women, we have this long to-do list. And, you know, again, including the children, husband, you know, cooking dinner, working, whatever those things look like, we should be number one on that list. If you are not putting yourself number one on that list, or if you are struggling with putting yourself at the top of that list, me and you need to have a one-on-one conversation. You know, it's so important. And so you cannot be your most optimal self. You cannot show up as a woman that you need to be if you are coming from a place of depletion. You know, you can't be the best mother, the best wife, the best woman if you're operating from that level. And so if you're operating from that level, you're mothering from a place of depletion, which that is, you know, not the healthiest of options. And again, this is not about putting shame. This is not about putting blame on anyone, but this is really acknowledging where we are coming from and the things that maybe we need to do to really take care of ourselves and improve who we are as, you know, as women. And, you know, the reality is that, you know, of course, when we think about the past, women were, you know, expected to give up their heart's desires to just be that mother and that stay-at-home figure. And the reality is we can be mothers and we can also follow our true heart's desires. You know, we have to begin to change this mindset of, we have to change this mindset that has been holding us down for so long. We have to make ourselves a priority. We have to be, you know, nurture ourselves so we can be those nurturing mothers that we need to be. And so I want to go back to the questions that were asked. If you answered yes to a lot of the questions, of course, chances are that you have a mother wound that needs to be healed. And the reality is that almost every woman has a mother wound that needs to be healed. You know, we all have this divine goddess within. The mother wound is blocking your access to this divine feminine energy that you have within you. The mother wound is a wound, of course, that we talked about that can be passed down from generation to generation, most of the time unintentionally or unknowingly. It is the true experience we had in relationship to our mothers. The experience may have been good, it may have been bad, it may have been both good and bad, or it could have been a complete absence of our mother. This is not, again, about placing blame on anyone, but about having the courage to face the pain experienced in relationship with our mothers. When the mother wound is not healed, it will inadvertently continue to impact our lives and how we feel about ourselves and how we feel in relation to others. Healing the mother wound, excuse me, healing the mother wound is critical so that you can truly be the powerful, strong woman that you were purposed to be. And it's really truly about healing and honoring the foundation you received from your mother, whether good or bad. Once you truly are able to heal the mother wound, you will be able to truly, truly reconnect authentically to your divine feminine energy. And the reality is you deserve to heal. When one woman heals, we all begin to heal. And you think about it, if it's something that is passed down from generation to generation. If you heal, that means that next generation will never receive the mother wound. And that cycle continues. And so again, when one of us heals, when we all heal. And so it is, it's time that women begin to heal this. I think about all the different, movements that are going on now with women and, in particular, like the Me Too movement and things like that. The reality is that the mother wound was built on this patriarchal society, and, women are now beginning to stand up. They're beginning to rise. They're beginning to no longer accept, these patriarchal oppressive societies. And so, I honestly have to say I'm honored to be able to see how all of this is unfolding and, to be able to be a part of that. I want to see women live their best life. I want to see women, begin to rise and, begin to be in their full, divine energy that they need to be to really, truly be the woman that they were purposed to be. So, of course, I could go on and on about that, of course, but I won't. So I do want to leave you with a few tips for healing the mother wound. Step 1 would be to acknowledge the pain. And again, this is something that is very difficult to do. Many of us prefer to hide it, stash it away. But again, as I mentioned earlier, you cannot heal what you do not acknowledge. And so when you really think about what's your true experience with your mother, what expectations and beliefs are you holding on to in relationship with your mother? I think about, for me, I had, of course, a lot of resentment. She wasn't the mother that I needed her to be. And it wasn't until my adulthood that I began to see her as a woman versus, just a mother, being able to see her own struggles with being a mother, mothering 5 girls. And I had to get it to a place where I was able to forgive her. I had to forgive her for not being who I needed her to be. And so the next thing that you have to get to a place is being able to give up that wish that your mother will be who you want her to be someday. Stop waiting and hoping that you will get the love that you needed as a little girl. The validation will likely never come. You must grieve the loss. She will never be what you wanted her to be. Grieving is a very painful process. Believe me, I know. Grieving is a very painful process, but it is also very restorative. I promise you that. Allowing yourself and that hurt little girl within to grieve will really help you move forward in this process. The next step is forgiveness. And, we hear a lot about forgiveness being for ourselves, not being for anyone else. And the reality is that that's true. I love Ayana Benslant. She is somebody that, I follow and I absolutely love her work. But one of the things that she says is holding on to unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to be harmed by it. And so if we think about that concept, that, we are the ones holding on to this unforgiveness. It is harming us. It's not harming the other person in any way, shape, or form. Of course, unless we're, often engaging with that person. And so I love that concept, because the reality is that, yes, when we forgive someone, it's not about saying that what they did was okay. It's not saying that that their actions were acceptable. It's saying, you know what, I no longer am going to allow this pain to continue to consume me, continue to affect me. And so that is a critical piece of being able to truly work through your mother wound. You must forgive everyone, in particular, of course, your mom and yourself. You have to wholeheartedly forgive your mother. You can no longer continue to carry this burden, this mother wound with you, because again, if you do, you're going to pass that inadvertently to your child. And that's not something that, I don't think any mother wants to do. You must forgive yourself for the way that you displayed the same actions to your own children. If we have the mother wound, commonly we display those similar behaviors, not meaning to, but how many times have you said, I never want to be like my mother, and then you do some actions that actually end up being just like your mother, And so it's about forgiving yourself for those times where you were, doing the similar behaviors, forgiving yourself for allowing that pain to, hurt you, for allowing that pain to hurt your children. You didn't know any better at the time. And so last and probably the most critical step is really being able to reparent that little girl, that hurt little girl inside of you, and to be that source of unconditional love for her. So most women, again, struggle loving themselves at some point in their lives. If we, dig deep enough, there is probably a little girl who didn't receive the love and the nurturance that she needed growing up. The amazing, amazing woman that you are today can provide that love, that unconditional love to that little girl. Offering unconditional love to yourself, to your body, taking care of yourself in a loving way, being compassionate to yourself are just some ways that you can begin to really nurture that little girl. Changing the way that you speak to yourself. If you negatively speak to yourself, even if you're not saying the things out loud, but if you're saying them in your head, that is just hurting that little girl that you have within you. We're working on healing that little girl. And the only way that you do that is through compassionate, unconditional love toward yourself. And so that's kind of where that self-care piece comes into it, really focusing on taking care of yourself, on, doing everything that you can to make yourself a priority. Because when you make yourself a priority, you make that little girl a priority, and that's what she needs. She needs to feel like she's a priority. And of course, this is a concept that a lot of people struggle with, that inner child. There's a lot of inner child work, and this is definitely something that I do in my practice. So if this is a concept that you're struggling with, if you're not sure how to do that inner child and really help that little girl within you heal, please give me a call. I will include my, information in the comment section, So please give me a call so we can, have a little bit more of a one-on-one discussion with this, because that is super, super, super important. You need to begin to nurture that little girl. How do you nurture that little girl? Think about the things that you loved to do when you were a little girl. Did you love to swing? Did you love, to drink juice boxes? Did you love a soft, comfy blanket? Well, those are things that you can do now. You can, swing on the swings, and even if, you may look silly as an adult swinging on the swings, you're nurturing that little girl. You're letting that little girl within you know, that hurt little girl within you know, you're important. I am here for you. Some of the ways that people don't realize how that inner child continues to affect themselves as an adult. So think about if you had any form of trauma, any significant negative experience in your life. And I'll give an example. Like if you had it at the age of 10 years old, let's say, and maybe now you're 35. If that significant trauma occurred at 10, you never healed from that significant trauma, whenever you have any emotional issue come up for you, any kind of emotional intensity, you're actually responding from an emotional state of 10 years old. And so I see a lot of adult children walking around because they have not healed those past wounds. And so this part is critical, when I say probably the most critical of all of these pieces, is really truly being able to heal those past wounds, including the mother wound. You know, this is the big part of that. When you begin to heal the mother wound, a lot of times a lot of the other wounds will clear out. And so again, you know, such an important, critical topic for us. And so again, you know, nurturing that inner child, that little girl within you, is super, super important, and it's actually pretty easy. You know, again, it's just, you know, playing when you need to, you know, whether it be like simple things, dancing in the rain, going barefoot, you know, again, like I mentioned, swinging on the swing, you know, doing whatever makes you feel loving and playful, you know, do more of that. You know, again, healing the mother wound can be very painful. I'm not going to be, you know, lie to you. I'm not going to, you know, be dishonest to you in any way, shape, or form. And of course, it's very painful because you're bringing up some intense emotions to the forefront. You're choosing to begin to look at all of the pieces, you know, can be very emotional. But I promise you, when you are able to release the mother wound and you are able to truly connect to that divine feminine energy within you, you know, you will be forever changed. And just want to share again, if you need any guidance on this topic, you know, I am currently offering some specials on healing the mother wound, because it is my belief that every woman needs to heal this mother wound. You know, mention this Facebook Live video when you call, and I will be giving you a discount on that. So please, you know, if you feel that this is a subject that you really need to focus on, I will be running the special through a little bit, probably I would say mid-May. So, you know, feel free to call. We can set up a free phone consultation for you, and, you know, I would be honored to help you and to guide you through this process. And again, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for allowing me to hold this sacred space. It has been a true honor to really talk about this, the mother wound, and healing, because every woman needs to heal this mother wound so that, again, we don't continue to repeat the cycle and continue to pass this down from generation to generation. And so again, it has been a true honor. Thank you, thank you, thank you for allowing me to hold this sacred space for you. And I look forward to hearing from you. And if there is anything else that you would like to see, you know, again, please feel free to leave it in the comment section. I've had a couple of people request that I do this on a weekend so that more people have the chance to participate. So that is definitely something that I'm going to be doing. Excuse me. So please look, you know, forward to that. And thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you all have a fabulous day. Thank you.